Greetings, knife fanatics. I'm doing a series of videos to offer my highly useful opinions on some of my new knife acquisitions. This is my first time doing videos on YouTube, so I haven't written a script. Just plan to throw out some comments that I hope someone will find useful. This will be the RikeKnife Thor Model 1. Been waiting a few months for this thing to come out. Seen it on Instagram. Couldn't really decide which model Thor I wanted. I got them both, and I plan to only keep one of them. Like a lot of these Chinese knives, it comes in a fairly nice pouch. In this case, not only does it come in a pouch, it also comes in a leather sheath, which is interesting. Now, Rike has a series of colors for these. The most popular one is probably going to be the one that has the Damascus inlay on the frame. I believe that's might be the Thor2. I can't recall now. My intention is, if I can get a hold of one of those, I will probably pick one up. But of the 1 and the 2, I've chosen to keep the Thor2. So let's talk about a few good and bad observations on this thing. Right. Yeah. Out of the box, it is a pretty terrible flipper. I'm hoping it's going to, maybe a better look at that, hoping it's going to break in over the course of a week or two. Given that it's a integral, my guess is that they have to design them a little bit tighter, because it would be difficult to adjust anything. I'm sure the pivot can be adjusted, but I'm wondering if it's more of an issue with an integral, getting the bearing just right. One nice thing about this knife is the way they've done the anodizing on the frame. It starts out blue, and when you get skin oil on it, I think I'm going to have to kill my cat in a minute. When you get skin oil on it, it tends to go purple, which gives some interesting look to the knife. The pivot design is pretty interesting. Stylistically, it's really nice. This is a fairly pricey knife. It's I think it's about $500 on Knife Center. Both the models of the Thor. Yep, I am going to have to kill my cat. The blade is, yeah, genius. I don't think I remember what the blade material is. I think it's M390, I want to say, which is the same as my new Torrance Riat. This one has a highly visible lanyard hole, which doesn't bother me too much, although I don't use a lanyard, so I'm not sure how useful that's going to be. Pardon me while I kill my cat. And I'm back. I'm very fond of this blade design. I like Tantos in general, and this one's pretty nice. The blade finish is very nice. Has a pretty good polish on the well, okay, let me retract that. I put a bit of a polish on the edge. It came with a fairly coarse grind, comparatively speaking, but it was plenty sharp. I wouldn't say hair shaving sharp, but above average sharp. I'm not sure how the other Rikes are. This is my first one. This hole here and the blood groove, I think, are nice additions to this one. The blade on the Thor1 is a bit wider than the 2. The 2 is a slimmer knife. I think I like this one better. Also, these this design element here is characteristic of Rike. I don't think the Thor2 doesn't have that, I don't believe. It does have a highly visible lock bar insert. No effort was made to hide that, which I find kind of interesting. I don't know, I'm mixed on that. I think they could have done better there. The pocket clip is a sculpted titanium. It's pretty interesting the way they have it mounted. One of the frame bolts holds it, and then it has a second bolt which bolts into the frame. The one of them is, well, being it's an integral, it's interesting. They are not countersunk into the frame the same amount, and I'm not quite sure why they did it that way. At any rate, I don't know if you can see how they've done the integration. It's pretty nice. Now, one thing I have to point out is they carved a groove in the frame for the lock bar to fit into. They put these holes in it for style. Now, the the pocket clip drops down into this groove cut in the titanium, and it's a fairly weak pocket clip, but where the clip drops into the groove is probably going to act like a guillotine on your jeans. That's how it looks to me. It's fairly sharp edge there. Maybe if they deburred it a little more. Personally, I think it works stylistically, but it's probably a mistake in terms of utility. Now, interestingly, on these Rike integrals, the cutout for to give the lock bar its flexibility are cut both on the inside and on the outside. So I'm not sure. I guess that reduces slightly the amount of material they have to take off the style side. But not quite sure why they did it that way. Mine came with, you might be able to see, probably not. These holes that were drilled into the back of the frame, and by the way, it has their name here, RikeKnife. It's pretty subtle. And there's also a cutback for your finger to follow when you operate the flipper tab, which is nice. These holes, when they were drilled, they did not deburr them properly on the inside after they were drilled, and then they went ahead and anodized the knife. So they are on the inside. I knocked the extra material sort of off, but it's not deburred right. I think they could have done better. Probably would have not taken much of an extra step to clean that up. And I'm guessing that they're all going to be like that if that's the way their manufacturing process goes. Generally speaking, I would say that if an integral has, if I thought all the integrals I was going to have would have this flipping action, I wouldn't say it was worth the novelty of having an integral. But I'll reserve judgment on that until I've had it long enough to see if it breaks in. I think I mentioned before the pivot is very nicely styled, also very characteristic of Rike. I think it's one of my favorite things about their knives. It does not use any kind of a custom bolt on the pivot. I think it's just either a Torx or a Allen. I don't have my glasses on, I can't see that. But all in all, I'd say that's a lot of knife. $500. I'm going to guess that they've got more profit built into this knife because of the novelty of it being an integral than they do in some of their others. I guess Rike is considered to be one of the high-end Chinese production knives. I'm iffy on my thoughts on that price. If it was, I don't know, 400, I wouldn't even probably think twice about it. But for $5, if you like the style, it is a pretty nice knife, but I'm not so sure. I was just noticing that the place where the lock bar engages the blade has a pretty small radius cutout. That tends to cause lock stick or creep sooner, I think, from what I hear, than a flatter surface for the lock bar to engage on. Generally means that they just use a slightly less sophisticated technique when they machine that part of the blade. Another thing that's interesting about this knife is the stop pin, which is the stop pin for open and closed, is machined right into the titanium frame. There's no steel pin there, which I don't think that's not the case on the Thor 2. Interestingly, they've done a cutout in the knife so that it sort of captures around it when it's closed. I'm not sure if there was anything more than an aesthetic intent there when they did that. Maybe somebody else has some ideas. Let's see. It did not come with any extra hardware. Just the pouch and the sheath, which has no attachment points. Not quite sure exactly what you would use that for. I guess you could keep it in your pocket with the knife, but the knife doesn't, you wouldn't want to keep it in the sheath with the pocket clip engaged. There wouldn't be any point, I don't think. I think it's really intended to go in that way. So, yeah, I don't know how useful that is. It does flip a little better for me when I don't have gloves on. And it has been getting slightly better with use, so I think that's going to improve. That about sums it up for me, I think, on my on the Rike Thor1. I think these are available in GP knives. They're not yet available in Knife Center at the time of this video. They do not have the Damascus left. I'm not sure. I think there's 3 of one model and 2 of the other, not counting the Damascus. There may even be at some point a Damascus blade version. I don't generally go for those, so I haven't really been paying attention. Happy collecting.